In the 90s, BMW research department, BMW Technik GmbH, introduced some of the most exciting and advanced concept cars of the decade, from electric city cars to crazy roadster with off-road capabilities. Here are the BMW concepts of the 1990s. I will start this video with the two prototypes based on the E31 8 series. The first one is the convertible E31. Not much is known about the cabrio, and if BMW ever intended the car for production. But this car isn't that special, since some tuners, like Koenig, built convertible versions of the E31. The 850 TSI was the top of the line and the M version of the 8 series. But in 1990, BMW actually built a M8. The car was powered by an enlarged version of the 850 TSI engine, which produced 550 horsepower. This engine was completely different from the McLaren F1 engine, even though the engines came from the same family. Again, not much is known about this car, since the M8 was a legend for most of the time, until recently, when the car was unveiled for the first time. BMW has stated that the car was never intended for production, since the car was considered unsafe for road use. A lot of you guys have requested a story of the Nazca Project, which included the M12, the C2 and the C2 Spider. The first car was the M12 and was introduced in 1991. Italdesign and BMW had worked together before. The first car came in 1976 and was requested by the German coach builder Karmann. The BMW Karmann Asso di Quadri was part of the Asso or ACE project. The Giaciuro started in the 70s. The Asso project was initiated by Karmann, who wanted to build a number of small cars based on cars that were already in production. The first car was the Audi Asso di Picche, or Ace of Spades, and was introduced in 1973. The Asso di Picche was based on the Audi 80 and is a car that definitely should have been built, but that's a story for another time. The next car was Asso di Quadri or Ace of Diamonds and was based on the BMW E21. The same design language used for the Asso di Picche was also used for the Asso di Quadri, just this time a little bit softer. The final car was presented in 1979 under the name Asso di Fiori or Ace of Clubs. The car was designed for Suzuki and was based on the Suzuki Gemini and is the only car from the Asso project that made it into production, as the Suzuki Piazza. The next car that came from the collaboration between BMW and Italdesign was the M1, which was introduced in 1977. Giugiaro was inspired by the BMW Turbo, designed by Paul Bracq, back in 1972. Originally, M1 was meant to be homologated for Group 4 racing. BMW struck a deal with Lamborghini to build the car for them, but the project was postponed a number of times, since Lamborghini was in big financial troubles. So the M1 was built by Italdesign together with two other Italian coach builders, and BMW. But when the requirements of 400 M1s was achieved, Group 4 was dissolved. So the Pro Car or the BMW Pro Car Championship was created, when the top 5 F1 qualifiers could race other M1s. The top 5 F1 drivers would drive M1s from BMW factory team, while the other teams were private. The Pro Car Championship was only held for 2 years, 1979 won by Niki Lauda and 1980 won by Nelson Piquet, but I'm going to make a detailed story about the M1 another time. Now, not a lot of information exists about Nazca Project, but probably Italdesign built the car and tried to convince BMW to enter the car in production, and Italdesign to build a car for them. The first car was the M12, which was presented at the 1991 Geneva Motor Show. The beautiful body of the M12 was built out of carbon fiber, making the M12 a ultra-lightweight car. The most unique part of the car was the top of the car, which was made completely out of glass, creating this way a 360-degree view. The doors were made out of two pieces, when first you had to open the gullwing glass panel and later the frameless doors. The power came from the M70B50 engine, the same engine that the 750i and the 850i used. The engine produced 300 horsepower and 330 pound-foot of torque, something that helps the car to reach a top speed of 290 km per hour and to reach 100 in 4.5 seconds. At that year Tokyo Motor Show, Italdesign and BMW presented a redesigned version of the M12, the Z2. The front of the car was completely redesigned, which made the car to look more aggressive. This redesign added to the car a front and a rear spoiler. The biggest change was the engine, which now was tuned by Alpina and produced 350 horsepower. The acceleration time now was lowered to 4.1 seconds. The final car of the Nazca project came in 1993. The Z2 Nazca Spider, like the name suggests, was the Spider version of the Z2. Beside the top of the car, Italdesign had also removed the engine glass cover. But the biggest change was the engine, since now the Spider didn't use the M70B50 that the previous car used, but the S70B56, which the 850 CSI used. The top speed was at 300 km per hour, while the acceleration time still was at 4.1 seconds. Now it's unknown if BMW ever thought of putting the M12 or the Z2 into production, but after the whole M1 mess, they probably never intended this car for production. But at least one M12 was built. Prince Geoffrey Bolkaik of the royal family of Brunei convinced Italdesign to build a car for them. The interesting thing is that this car was bashed as a Italdesign car and not as a BMW, something that proves that BMW probably never intended this car for production. The Z11 might be considered the original i3. The Z11 codename E1 was built as a research car to show how the electric future might look like. The car was very advanced for the time, from the aerodynamic shape and the build materials to the power plant. The electric engine, which produced 43 horsepower, was mounted above the rear axle. BMW claimed a 200 km range and that the Z11 had a top speed of 120 km per hour. Also, the 120 volts sodium sulfur batteries needed 6 to 8 hours to charge. 2 years later, in 1993, BMW presented the Z15, which was a slightly redesigned version of the Z11. Minivans were ultra popular back in the 80s and the early 90s, so basically everyone was presenting their version. Columbus was designed by Italdesign, and again looks like the project was mostly pushed by Italdesign. Columbus was an ultra luxury minivan, even for today's standards. The power came from the M70B50, which was also used for the M12, something that made the Columbus very similar to the 1988 Lamborghini Genesis, which was designed by Bertone and used the Countach V12 engine. Like many minivan concepts of the time, Columbus had a central driving position, but because of the big engine, the driver's seat had to mount it higher compared to other seats. Everything was covered in leather and wood. Each seat had its own TV, which was connected to a TV network and a central VHS. Like I said, the car probably was built by Italdesign and later received a BMW badge. In 1993, BMW presented one of their most interesting concepts, the Z13, a car like no other car before, in every single way. The development of the Z13 started back in 1990, when BMW was also developing the Z11. The idea was quite similar, a lightweight compact city car. Just this time BMW ditched the electric engine for a 1000cc engine, which came from one of their motorcycles. The engine originally produced 100 horsepower, but BMW lowered the power and decided to increase the torque in lower speeds. This was enough power for the Z13, since the car only weighed 830 kilos. The Z13 had a central driving position, while the two passenger seats were behind, in McLaren F1 style. The car was packed with the latest tech, like satellite navigation, phone and even a fax machine. BMW was really considering putting the Z13 into production, and looked like things were going in a good direction, but the project was cancelled after BMW acquired Mini. In 1995, BMW presented the Z18, which in my opinion is one of the coolest prototypes ever. The Z13 was based on the Z3, but BMW Technic had completely redone the car. First, it was now a off-roader and packed a 355 horsepower V8. The most controversial part of the car was the design. The car looked like it had something from all the other BMWs that were in production at the time. Even weirder was the fact that BMW never designed a top for the Z18. Instead, they made a very simple interior with very durable materials. The Z18 was never meant for production. BMW Technic just wanted to show what they could do, and once again they amazed everyone. Also in 1995, BMW presented the Z21, or just 42. The Z21 was basically the BMW's version of the Caterham. The car had a 1000cc engine that came again from the BMW's motorcycle division. The engine had 100 horsepower, which was a lot of horsepower, because the Z21 was ultra lightweight, weighted at only 520 kilos. BMW reached a top speed of 180 km per hour and reached 100 in 6 seconds. Like the Z18, the Z21 was never meant for production. The final concept car of the 90s was the Z9 and was introduced in 1999, which later became the 6 Series. The exterior design was very similar with the final road-going car. The interior on the other side was completely different, with a more aggressive design, like most of the concept cars of the 90s. The Z9 had gullwing doors for easier access into the rear seats, but also had regular doors for the front seats. So guys, these were the BMW concept cars of the 1990s. Thank you for watching, see you next time.